The Scum plot causes comfort by Lin's Hello copywriting. Sieran nicknamed the humanoid AI. Feature 1, more sensible than AI. Feature 2, more ruthless than AI. Later, he went to the parallel world. Those people who had the same name and surname as him had had a great life, but because of the heavy feelings, they were deceived and hurt by the people he loved, and ended up miserably. Sieran, who was attracted by obsessions, emphasis on feelings. After a while, subordinate, boss, you have not contacted Mr. Ran for a long time. Scum attack, did he know that he was wrong? Subordinates, no, he is much richer than you now. Scum attack? Subordinates, oh, yes, he is about to ruin your company. The outside world is spreading that Sieran is born of love and hate. Sieran, hate? What is that? Sieran's AI assistant, sorry, this touches the knowledge blind spot of Mr., but it's okay, I will teach Mr. Passerby, Sieran learns human feelings from AI? Finally finished the copywriting, sand sculptures quickly pass through the text. CP is an AI assistant who works hard to learn to be human. 233 World 1, 10 years ago, Sieran and Fang Huivong, who just debuted, contributed to the most popular national CP. Fang Huivong chose to avoid suspicion for the sake of his future. 10 years later, the two great heavenly kings who became famous in the century broke the ice and sang on the same stage. Fang looked back at his stable position, and couldn't help but miss the old days of Qi and Ziran. Fang Huivong was interviewed, I am very happy to cooperate with Ziran again. Sieran, I am also very happy. The rewards provided by the platform are very generous and I am very satisfied. Content tag, entertainment circle face sweet text fastware search keywords, protagonist, Sieran, Meng Fixuan supporting role, scumbags others, abuse scum, quickware, cool text one sentence brief, you are very happy if you abuse scum the work is strongly pushed, Sieran, a technological genius, accidentally crossed to other people in the parallel world. These people were hurt and used by the scum because of too heavy feelings. They traveled with Sieran, as well as his AI assistant Meng Fei. Hang! The true AI Meng Fixuan and Sieran, who is more ruthless than AI, do whatever they want in a parallel world. The scumbags who have used their emotions to hurt the original owner trembling collectively. People are in a parallel world, everything goes well, and scumming is just a matter of hand. The author uses humorous brush strokes to write the plot of the face-slapped and abused scum. The plot is fascinating and worth looking forward to. After 10 years, old friends, today's superstar at once again sang on the same stage, detonating the Snowball TV New Year's Eve stage. Tonight, the Snowball Satellite TV's New Year's Eve concert was broadcast live, and there was no interaction for nearly 10 years. It is rumored that the superstars Sieran and Fang Huivong will sing together again, which instantly detonated the nostalgic craze for old fans. Snowball Satellite TV has the highest ratings in 5 years, and has reached the top all-platform New Year's Eve ratings record. You can still play in Snowball, but Sieran and Fang Huivong, who have been uncooperative for 10 years, are invited to join together. I don't know how much Snowball Satellite TV cost. In addition, the small speaker received gossip that this collaboration is suspected to be initiated by Yuang Studio. What does this mean, Doge? In any case, tonight is destined to be a carnival for CP fans. On the evening of December 31st, almost all entertainment platforms reported the same news in the headlines. Superstars Sieran and Fang Huivong once again sang on the same stage 10 years later. At the same time, the entire Weibo comment was also detonated. Yang Ground CP was ranked number 1 in the hot search, followed by a purplord, and the fans of both parties could not control the comments. I saw it, Ziaran seemed to be tired and didn't want to talk, so Wanger went on. Wanger is really as considerate as ever, just as before. This year, Ziaran and I have just made our debut for 10 years. This time is very meaningful. We have also recovered our previous tacit understanding in this performance. I am very happy to have this opportunity to work with Xiaoran again. Feng Huivong paused. After a while, he turned his head and looked at Xiaoran again. His eyes were gentle. What do you think, Xiaoran? As he handed the microphone to Xiaoran, the barrage boiled even more. Xiaoran. His name is Xiaoran, just like 10 years ago. KSWL KSWL. With this little dream of returning to the starlight stage of tomorrow. He also mentioned it for 10 years. He remembers it, it's not just us who can't forget it. Everyone calm down, listen to Xiaoran's answer first. How can I answer? Of course it is Metu. In the expectation of everyone, Xiaoran took the microphone and said, I am also very happy. Have you heard, it's Metu. I unilaterally announced that Yan Ran is officially resurrected. The excited barrage of netizens was not finished, but Xiaoran kept his eyes open, and continued blankly, this time, the rewards given by Snowball Satellite TV are very generous, and I am very satisfied. Feng Huivong's smile stagnated, who had looked at him tenderly. Fang Hexen also let out a bewildered ah. But the originally excited barrage instantly cooled down and fell into a weird silence. Xiaoran debuted for 10 years, and his image in front of the camera has always been modest and polite, and he is a well-known high-quality idol. Therefore, when Fang Huivong handed the topic to Xiaoran, not to mention CP fans, even Xiaoran's fans thought that Xiaoran would definitely give the face to the face, and the words were not leaking. No one thought that Xiaoran would not follow the routine at all this time. As a result, the host and the netizens were shocked for a while. It took a while before the netizen who was the first to wake up trembling and sending out barrage. Ha 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 ha, Xiaoran said it well. I feel good. Do you hear the CP dog? Xiaoran said no. Pure business cooperation. After the backstage interview was over, Xiaoran confirmed that her work had been completed, and asked the assistant to send herself home. He and his assistant had just arrived in the underground parking lot, and suddenly Fang Huivong's slightly eager voice came from behind him, Xiaoran, wait a minute. Xiaoran stopped and looked back at Fang, what's the matter? His expression was indifferent, and his eyes were calm and waveless, as if he was looking at a stranger. Fang Huivong had never seen him like this before, so he couldn't help but was taken aback when he saw this. He originally wanted to complain that he didn't give face at all during the interview and swallowed it back. Xiaoran's assistant was a visionary, and immediately said I'll drive first and walked away. When the assistant walked away, Fang Huivong came back to his senses. His eyes fell on Xiaoran again, and there was a bit of annoyance in his gentle voice, Xiaoran, don't you say it, will you go to my house tonight for New Year's Eve? Xiaoran thought for a while, only to remember that there was such a thing. In the memory of the original owner, at this time he had already decided to reunite with Fang Huivong, so he agreed to Fang Huivong's invitation before the concert, and agreed to go to Fang Huivong's home together with the New Year's Eve after the performance. And Fang Huivong also carefully arranged at home in advance, and gave the original owner a surprise, and then the two reunited together naturally. Fang looked back at Xiaoran, his eyes filled with unspoken tenderness and expectation. He knew that taking Xiaoran as a person, he would agree to perform with him and accept his invitation again. He must have decided to accept his pursuit again. Although Xiaoran's state was a bit wrong since the end of the performance, Fang Huivong was still full of confidence. He has made sufficient preparations at home in advance, and will give Xiaoran a surprise later. Xiaoran will definitely be with him again. Thinking of this, Fang Huivong smiled deeper, even thinking about what to do after confession. Then, he saw Xiaoran casually glanced at him and said quietly, not going anymore. Fang Huiwen's smile suddenly froze, and he subconsciously felt that Xiaoran was joking. After waiting for a while, he found that Xiaoran had no intention to explain. On the contrary, Xiaoran saw that he was silent, and continued, it's okay, I'm leaving. After that, he didn't even hesitate. He turned around and left. Fang Huivong frowned immediately, stretched out his hand to hold his cuff, and said slightly deep, Xiaoran, what do you mean? Xiaoran looked at him with an expression of caring for the mentally retarded, don't you understand? Fang Huivong's expression was constricted. Of course he understood. It was because he understood that he asked this question. He was determined to look at Xiaoran, his eyes became dangerous, but Xiaoran, we've already said it. Xiaoran said concisely, I regretted it. His tone was so arrogant and strong that Fang looked back for a while and didn't know how to refute it. After a while, he recovered, and his tone was a little unpleasant, Xiaoran, you can't be like this. Why not? Xiaoran looked at him inexplicably, have we signed the contract? Xiaoran, a business elite, walks in the industry. He only recognizes contracts in black and white and does not accept any verbal promises. Fang looked back. Is Xiaoran talking human words? Who should sign a contract in advance for a meeting? Looking back at Fang, he felt his entire temples suddenly, and it took a lot of effort to suppress the breath that came to his throat. Xiaoran, what's the matter with you? Did I do something to make you unhappy? Xiaoran didn't care about Fang's thoughts of looking back. At this time, she ran out of patience, and her tone became colder, I'm sleepy. His unfavorable appearance made Fang Huijian's heart angry, but he still suppressed his anger, forced a smile and patiently guided him, I have already prepared in advance, and I am waiting to be happy with you. Tonight, don't you look forward to it? Originally, the layout of the home was intended to surprise Xiaoran, but he didn't expect Xiaoran to change his mind when he said that he changed his mind. Fang Huivong had to reveal some first, trying to impress Xiaoran. With Xiaoran's character, knowing that he had made preparations in advance, he must be ashamed to let him work in vain. I didn't want to Xiaoran but was completely unmoved, even slightly impatient, I don't expect it. After saying that, he pulled the cuff pulled by Fang Huivong, turned and left. Looking back here, he couldn't hold back his anger anymore. During this period of time, he slumped down in front of Xiaoran, thinking that he had enough patience, and he also made a good posture. Xiaoran clearly wanted to reconcile with him, but he didn't expect to get a foot on the door, and he actually put on a posture again. Fang Huivong couldn't help but sneered in his heart. Don't look at the relationship between him and Xiaoran, who has been pursuing Xiaoran, but in fact, he has always been the leader of this relationship. 10 years ago, he dumped Xiaoran first. Now, 10 years later, he just spent a little time, Xiaoran dazedly agreed to join him on the same stage. Probably because he was so kind to Xiaoran during this period of time, he actually had the illusion that he could act arrogantly. Xiaoran! Fang Hui looked calmly and called out, with a sullen tone in his tone, have you figured it out? It is not easy for the two of us to walk today. I really want to go on with you again. You are just like that today. If I leave, I will be very sad and disappointed, I don't know if I can keep on going. In his words, he retreats for advancement. On the one hand, he complained about Xiaoran's unkindness, and on the other hand, he madly hinted at Xiaoran that if Xiaoran left like this today, he might not continue to chase Xiaoran. He wanted Xiaoran to know that his patience was also limited. Although he asked for reconciliation first, he couldn't just let Xiaoran handle it casually. If Xiaoran doesn't want to play off completely, he should accept it if he knows how to see it. When Fang Huivong said this, his eyes were fixed on Xiaoran, waiting for him to panic, then compromised. He didn't believe that Xiaoran dared to risk losing him completely and continue to make a fool of himself. But the reaction of the other party was beyond his expectations. Xiaoran did not show the panic he expected. He only gently pinched the bridge of his nose with his fingers. It seemed that he was really sleepy, and his voice also brought a rare languidness, I know, don't force it if you can't insist. It sounds very relaxed. Fang looked back. Fang Huivong's heart was shocked. Xiaran doesn't care at all? Are you not afraid? For a long time, Fang Huivong felt that he had grasped Xiaran's psychology very well. Whether it was a breakup before or a reconciliation now, everything was steadily advancing according to his plan. But at this time, looking at Xiaran's nonchalant appearance, he suddenly felt a trace of uncertainty and the panic that he had never had before. What if Xiaran really doesn't want to get back together? Fang looked back and found that he had never thought of this possibility, let alone how to face it. Because he was too stunned, Fang looked back for a moment and forgot how to say it. He only stared at Xiaran blankly, and the 6 relatives left without acknowledgement. However, Xiaran had just taken 2 steps, suddenly stopped, and looked back at him. That's right. Fang Huivong's spirit instantly lifted. Xiaran really regretted it, right? After all, he also wants to get back together. Fang Huivong sneered in his heart, with a serious gesture on his face, intending to give Xiaran a little gesture in turn, letting him know that he was not that easy to handle. Just listen to Xiaran say, "Don't call me Xiaran again." Fang looked back for a moment, and subconsciously asked, "What is that called you?" Xiaran uttered 2 words without expression on his face, "Mr. Xiat." Fang looked back. Fang looked back. The author has something to say, "Mr. Xiat, this sounds much more cordial." Fans? Fang Huivong suffocated his anger, and stepped on the accelerator all the way back home. As soon as he opened the door, the room was filled with balloons, flowers, and decorated lanterns. There were also prepared tables on the table in the living room. Champagne and well-wrapped gifts. These were all prepared for Xiaran, but Xiaran didn't come if he couldn't. Did Xiaran notice something? Or does he really regret it and don't want to get back together? Thinking of this possibility, the unfamiliar panic and anxiety surged again, and Fang Huivong shook his head subconsciously, trying to get rid of this uneasy emotion. At this moment, the phone rang suddenly. It was his agent and Kuang Yufeng, a partner in his studio. At this time it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Fang Hui looked at his brows and pressed the answer, "What else is it so late? What's the matter with you and Xiaran?" Kuang Yufeng's voice was angry, "Didn't you say that you can fix him? That's how it is done." Fang Huivong was inexplicably hurt. "What do you mean? Have you not watched the hot search?" Kuang Yufeng almost laughed. "Xiaran is really capable. It exploded twice a night, and the hot search can't be removed. Well, you haven't had this traffic for a long time. It's time to refresh the data for you. Let's take a look for yourself. I'll have a meeting with the Public Relations Department to see how this matter is handled." Kuang Yufeng hung up the phone in a hurry. Fang Huivong quickly opened Weibo and saw that in the middle of the night, there was another hot search on Weibo that had been busy all night. This hot search is called, "Xiaran, Not Feelings." Fang looked back at his eyelids and clicked in with a bad feeling. "I saw that the homepage was full of interview videos of him and Xiaran on the backstage of Swekyu TV. There were a lot of comments from netizens under each video. Heal if Sunspot is sick. Wang Ji is obviously polite and has to be dissed, but people who don't have EQ can be praised? I am the only one who thinks that Xiaran Mo's emotional appearance is very emotional. It's more attractive than the usual style of veteran codders. Yuri not alone. I also think Xiaran's cold look is more personal." Fang Huivong's face slumped down. Almost all the videos underneath were similar comments. Although some people felt that Xiaran was too shameful, but more people felt that if Fang Huivong and Xiaran really wanted to befriend Xiaran, how could it be? 10 years of zero interaction? Obviously Xiaran's answer is more in line with the real situation. Everyone is tired of the celebrity's hypocritical politeness in front of the camera. On the contrary, Xiaran's reality is liked. Fang Huivong's fans tried to accuse them, but they couldn't resist the large number of passers-by. After all, they didn't control them, and instead caused a ridicule. Feng Hui looked darker and darker, and finally couldn't hold back his pop and threw the phone on the table. There were gifts and champagne he carefully prepared on the table, which became bright jokes at this time. Xieran! Feng Hui looked with red eyes and let out a low growl. He lifted the table hard with both hands. After hearing only a few loud bangs, everything on the table hit the ground, the champagne bottle exploded, and the pale golden liquid splashed all over the floor. He stood in a mess and took a breath for a while, then bent down, picked up the phone whose screen was broken, and dialed Kuang Yufeng's phone. "I have an idea." "Kuang Yufeng, what do you think?" Feng Huivong sneered. "Advance the release time of Nangongsu to the same day as Xieran's studio." "Are you sure?" Kuang Yufeng was a little surprised. "If you do this, you will just hit Xieran's face." He laughed inexplicably. "Don't you always remember Xieran? Aren't you afraid that Xieran hates you for this?" Feng looked back and was silent for a while, then sneered. "I can tell what is most important. Yes, this is what I admire most about you. It's not emotional." Kuang Yufeng exclaimed. "I will arrange it now." The next morning, Xieran was working in front of the computer, and the cell phone next to him suddenly rang, and the caller ID was Guanchanan, the agent of the original studio. Xieran answered. "Say." Guanchanan on the other end of the phone was slightly stunned, feeling that Xieran's aura suddenly became a lot stronger. Obviously it was only a short word, but it inexplicably made her feel pressure. But she quickly recovered. "Xieran, have you watched the news?" "No." Xieran asked. "What? Then you can take a look. Yuang Studio just announced the news that they are going to launch virtual idols, and they also set the conference on the same day as us." While Guanchanan was talking, Xieran also opened Weibo on his computer. Sure enough, the first hot search was the news that Yuang Studio had just announced the launch of the virtual idol Nangongsu. The world where the original owner is in broke through the holographic imaging technology a few years ago. As holographic technology matures, the entertainment industry has also been further developed, including the rise of two-dimensional virtual idols. Following this trend, many technology companies and entertainment companies have launched their own virtual idols, creating a lot of topical traffic. It happened that a friend of the original owner took advantage of the rise of virtual idols and brought a team from a large technology factory to do it alone. Because of the shortage of funds, he found the original owner to invest. In addition, the original owner has the resources of the entertainment industry, so it is logical to develop it. The virtual idol is also attached to Xieran's studio as an artist. 2 days ago, Xieran's studio announced that it will hold a press conference on the first weekend of the new year to officially launch their first virtual idol. Many fans of Xieran have their own enthusiasm, and the news was posted on hot searches as soon as the news was announced. Everyone is looking forward to what his virtual idol will look like. Unfortunately, from the memory of the original owner Xieran received, the results of this project are really not good. In the memory of the original owner, the virtual idols they launched this time are of average level and are not much different from the existing virtual idols on the market. However, because of the popularity of Xieran, it has attracted some attention after its launch. But not long after, Yuang Studio also launched their virtual idol Nangongsu. At that time, the original owner and Feng Huivong had reunited, and the two interacted well. It was when the CP enthusiasm was the highest, Nangongsu directly tied the virtual idol of Xieran Studio to debut, and made a wave of enthusiasm. Nangongsu made a blockbuster, and subsequently brought a large amount of technology investment to Yuang Studio, which also completed the initial capital transformation. The virtual idol of Xieran Studio was forgotten because of poor operation in the later stage after the CP fever was over. Xieran got up to work early today because of this memory. The original owner didn't know anything about technology, and he was also called a black hole in terms of investment. This led to him having no other career to stand up after his acting career was destroyed, and he had to leave the stage sadly. Xiaoran will not allow the same thing to happen to herself. To his surprise, Yuang Studio actually advanced the release time of Nangongsu. It seems that he is still reluctant to bear the popularity of CP. This time Xiaoran did not cooperate with Fang Huivong as the original owner, and Yuang Studio had to force it by himself. I have to say that their wave of operations is still very effective. The hot search Yuang Studio, Nangongsu is full of netizens who watch the excitement and queue up to eat melons. Woohoo! Xiaoran and Fang Huivong were on the same stage last night, and today Fang Huivong announced that he would fight Xiaoran on stage. Everyone, please be careful. Is Fang Huivong taking revenge on Xiaoran's ruthlessness last night? Tisk tisk, can it be that love produces hate? Doge, this is melancholy. They debuted together 10 years ago, and 10 years later, they will also launch virtual idols at the same time, and follow the same trend. If this is not love? It's true, I'm always in sync, KSWL KSWL. I have taken a CP fan, can this TM be knocked? If it was launched on the same day, it would be a head-to-head confrontation. Wouldn't those who lose at that time be publicly sentenced? Wow, force the truth to kill each other. A virtual idol again? Are you tired of it? Now a dozen virtual idols can be launched in a month, and even celebrity studios have to blend in. Do you have that technology? It is better to pick up 2 more good scripts if you have this skill. Xiaoran, I know you can't put it down and look back. You have to cooperate with him. I admit it, but even the virtual idols are scheduled to be released on the same day. Are you afraid that you are not tied tight enough? Guanxinan said. Obviously dissatisfied. Xiaoran is good at everything, but he is too emotional, and regardless of whether Fang Huivong himself is sincere or false to Xiaoran, Yuang Studios, a group of discerning operators, can see what idea he has made. If Xiaoran didn't even care about this, then she would be too disappointed. You and Fang Huivong are taking a different route now. The benefits of CP speculation are limited. It's okay if something goes wrong. How much impact will something happen to you? Before Guanxinan finished speaking, Xiaoran directly interrupted, this has nothing to do with me. Hey! Guanxinan was stunned for a moment. She thought that Xiaoran and Fang Huivong's old relationship revived, and Fang Huivong must have discussed this operation with Xiaoran, and this was the only reason she wanted to persuade Xiaoran. She was a little surprised, is it okay with you? No. What does the Yuang Studio mean? Guanxinan suddenly became angry. You quickly find Fang Huivong and tell him to reschedule. Why do you want him to reschedule? Xiaoran said quietly, isn't it a good thing that the heat is so high? It's not worth tying up with Fang Huivong for this heat. Guanxinan sighed and said his real concerns, and I heard that the Nangongsu that Yuang pushed this time is with Black Star. Produced by the team. The 2 studios release virtual idols together. If Xiaoran's studio is strong enough to overwhelm the other. But the Black Star team is currently the best-run virtual idol brokerage company in China, and several virtual idols with splashes on the market are all produced by Black Star. Guanxinan didn't think they could beat Black Star's products. In this case, publishing with the other party was just letting the other party step on the upper position. Guanxinan continued to persuade, Xiaoran, they obviously came here prepared this time, otherwise how dare to deliberately set the time on the same day as us? Well, they are quite courageous. Xiaoran's voice did not fluctuate, she only looked down at the computer screen in front of her, which was full of dense technical information. He spent the morning doing a summary analysis of the virtual idol technology in this world, and coupled with the memory of the original owner, he has a general understanding of the current technology. Although this world has broken through the holographic technology, the corresponding other technological developments are still similar to his original world, and some aspects are still slightly behind. And his company in the original world happened to be in the cutting-edge technology industry. It's a pity that this world doesn't have his assistant, otherwise, he might not even have to do it himself. Oh! Guanchanan was confused by Xieran's reaction. Xieran, what are you talking about? Xieran turned off the computer and leaned back on the back of the chair. He thought, if the assistant was there, he would probably say. Xieran chuckled unclearly, and said, the weather is cold, let them go bankrupt. It's kind of appropriate. Guanchanan. What is this Mr. Boss speech? The author has something to say. Fang Huivong, the tiger's body is shocked. Assistant, yes, I said it. Xieran Studios' virtual idol release location was set at a well-known 5-star hotel in this city. In addition to inviting the media to interview, it also opened a live webcast, and netizens can simultaneously watch the release through the live app. Kuang Yu has a deep understanding of the entertainment industry. Not only did he set his own release date to the same day as Xieran, but also the time and format. The same media and webcast were carried out simultaneously, and the expectations of netizens were all of a sudden hanging to the extreme. The press conference was hot before it was broadcast. For several days, the internet was full of prospects about the press conference. Fans of Xieran and Fang Huivong posted battles on various forums, which was a spectacle. On the day of the press conference, a large number of support fans gathered outside the hotels of the two studios. The live broadcast room has not yet started, but there are already a large number of netizens who squatted in advance. Netizens had no choice but to curse and cut to and fro. The media were divided into two groups, all the way to the Xieran studio site, all the way to the Yuang studio for interviews, everyone geared up, waiting for the first time to harvest the amazing traffic of this contest. In the backstage of the hotel venue, a large number of staff looked hurriedly busy, making the final preparations before the opening. Xieran wears a long black down coat and sits on the sofa in the corner. Unlike others who are highly tight, he looks calm, with a rather casual posture, and calmly confirms the process with the assistant. Seeing that the time was almost up, Xieran stood up and was about to take off the down jacket when the screen of the mobile phone placed aside flashed. The assistant glanced at Yu Guang, and Fang looked back when he saw the caller ID. Assistant manager. There is a situation. She knew that the relationship between the boss and Fang Huivong was not simple. But she is professional after all, even though she is gossip in her heart, she is consciously prepared to avoid it. I don't want Xieran to pick up the phone in one hand, and stretch out the other hand in front of her, beckoning her to help take off her coat, but she didn't mean to avoid people at all. The assistant lifted his spirits and couldn't help but his ears in excitement. Immediately afterwards, she saw Xieran press and hang up without hesitation, and then threw the phone into her hand. Take it away. Assistant manager. Damn it. Ruthless. Fang Huivong has been waiting for Xieran to call him since the studio announced the launch of the virtual idol. He thought that as long as Xieran's attitude was a little softer, he wouldn't mind appeasing Xieran. After the press conference was over, he could also ask the studio to be more polite in the press release to save Xieran a bit of face. He would make Xieran believe that he was still very considerate of him, and that the two of them still had a chance to be together. But he never waited for Xieran's call. His mood gradually became anxious from the beginning of the winning ticket. Even if Xieran is not worried about winning or losing, wouldn't he be angry? What is he doing? Why not ask himself? This kind of obviously made sufficient preparations to deal with the opponent, but the other party did not pay attention to his own feelings, making Fang Huivong as if he had hit the cotton with a punch, suffocating his breath in his chest. Until this time, the press conference was about to begin. Fang Huivong finally couldn't hold back anymore, and took the lead in dialing Xieran's number. He thought, as long as Xieran's attitude is better, he can still be merciful. Before he finished thinking about it, he listened to the blind tone of beep beep over the phone. Xieran didn't answer his phone. Fang Huivong looked at the phone in disbelief, gritted his teeth and let out a low growl. Xieran. What's wrong? Isn't it soft-hearted? Kuang Yufeng suddenly walked over and looked at him meaningfully. Next to him was a young man, Nile, the head of the Black Star team. Fang Huivong's face was ugly, and he coldly snorted, "How is it possible?" "That's good, let's watch it together," Kuang Yufeng said, and then handed his mobile phone in front of him. The live broadcast room of Sieran Studio is on the screen. At this time, the live broadcast room has started, and the press conference of Sieran Studio has officially started. Fang looked back at his rational return, took a deep breath, nodded if nothing had happened, and at the same time a retaliatory coldness appeared in his heart. Since Sieran is like this, don't blame him for being merciless. Sieran stepped onto the stage under the guidance of the host. As soon as he appeared, the entire live broadcast room instantly boiled. As a star, the original owner has always been fashionable and diverse for his own commercial value considerations, and is always gentle and polite in front of the camera, and always has the right smile on his face. Sieran wore a simple and formal handmade suit today, without any extra embellishments, and made her slender and stiff. His hairstyle was not as delicate as usual, he just combed it back at will, revealing a smooth forehead, and there was no expression on his face, making his facial features suddenly sharpened. Sieran took the microphone from the host, and then faintly scanned the camera and the next stage, and the whole person developed an aura of gaze for no reason. Netizens sneered, and Nile, who was watching them live with Fang, couldn't help but sneered. Fang looked back at him, "Is it funny?" Nile nodded, "It's funny." Sieran really doesn't understand anything. He actually talked about virtual idol consciousness. The most advanced manufacturers have not been able to break through the technology in this area. Sieran is afraid that he will brag about the concept after reading some concepts on the internet. It's a pity that the press conference is about real things, but it's not that you can get confused by just talking about concepts. What's more, at the level of Sieran, it is not always possible to clarify the concept. After listening to Nile's explanation, Kuang Yufeng couldn't help but laugh, and raised his eyebrows. It seems that Sieran is really anxious over there. A star after all. Nile took a look at the time and stood up. There is nothing good about their press conference. It's time for our good show. At this time, the atmosphere in the two live broadcast rooms has reached a fever pitch, and the dissatisfaction of the two-dimensional fans against Sieran has turned into the support of the other side. The number of guards in the live broadcast room of Yuang Studio has risen sharply. As soon as the live broadcast camera was opened, densely populated barrage immediately covered the entire screen. Ah! Look at the duck! What the hell? The netizens who were reminded switched back to the live studio of Sieran's studio, and then everyone was psychedelic. The main difference between the virtual idols launched by our company this time and other companies lies in the intelligent evolution. We have now broken through the multi-layer artificial network neural technology and machine training methods, which can initially realize the self-learning and evolution of virtual idols. Sieran is totally unaffected by the outside world, and is still not rushing, throwing out related technical concepts in a simple way. He has a clear mind and talks about it. When encountering a little more obscure knowledge, he will give some simple examples in time. Further explanation. Even people who don't understand this at all can see that Sieran is really familiar with these things, rather than just memorizing the manuscript. Barrage? Is there a problem with my IQ? Why can't I understand what Sieran is talking about? Speak out, you may not believe it. I am a senior who is engaged in AI technology is also watching. He said that Sieran's theory is feasible. Sieran may have really broken through AI technology, allowing virtual idols to evolve consciousness. Isn't it bragging? A crazy ball, right? Sieran has been filming for 10 years and then made breakthroughs in AI technology. Do you think that makes sense? The author has something to say, Sieran, reasonable. We will come out in the next chapter. Doge solemnly explain, I don't understand technical things at all. The concepts are all read in the information book. The reference materials are mainly from Zhu, reference books Deep Learning and God Throwing Dice Weight and so on, but I actually don't quite understand these only a few concepts, just look at it, don't take it seriously. All of a sudden, there was a quarrel in Sieran's live broadcast. The people who first watched the live broadcast were Sieran's fans and the lively melon-eating crowds. Most of them didn't understand the technology itself, and they just battled back and forth with Sieran's comments. Up to this time, seeing a netizen who actually moved out of the professional remarks, the netizens were immediately awakened, and one after another sent Sieran's live broadcast link to Weibo at various technology companies' technical big V for identification. Some understanding those in the industry are sent directly to those in the industry. Said it is seeking identification, but actually seeking to dispel rumors and seeking face. Although Sieran's speech sounds unclear and it sounds like that, most people don't believe that a star studio is capable of achieving it. Technological breakthroughs. So many professional technology companies can't do anything, a star brags braggingly that he can do it, and the screenwriter dare not make it like that. The attention of this live broadcast was already high, and the actions of a large number of netizens immediately shocked many people in the technology industry, and soon many people in the industry were attracted to it, triggering a new round of onlookers and heated discussions. Seeing so many big VS in the industry were alarmed, Fang Huivong's fans and Sieran's black fans were all excited. The live broadcast and Weibo kept cutting on both sides, just waiting for which big V spoke to expose Sieran. They link immediately to keep up. They didn't believe that Sieran hadn't overturned the car completely this time. Kuang Yufeng did not expect that this conference will have such a windfall. You must know that in addition to harvesting a handful of second-dimensional traffic for the launch of the virtual idol, Yuang Studio also wants to take this opportunity to seek investment from technology companies. This is the fastest way to get money. However, there are many kinds of virtual idols on the market. Really powerful companies are not optimistic about celebrity production. Kuang Yufeng has spent a lot of effort before using the Black Star brand and finally passed the project information in several large companies. It was originally planned to use the heat of this conference to let those big companies see the commercial value of Nangongsu. Unexpectedly, Sieran's arrogance was too big, and he actually attracted so many big players in the industry directly. With Sieran as a foil, there is such a fever. No matter what the quality of Nangongsu, Kuang Yufeng believes in those. The company has to think about it anyway. Kuang Yu put a smile on the corner of his mouth, just as Fang Huivong got off the stage and replaced Nile up to introduce Nangongsu's technical information. Kuang Yufeng talked about the situation with Fang Huivong, teasing in his tone, Sieran is really your lucky star, no wonder you have been reluctant to bear him for so many years. Fang Huivong let out a non-committal sneer with a complicated expression, Sieran was too hasty this time. Kuang Yufeng raised his eyebrows, anyway, he is doomed to fail, and he just helped us. When you get back together, your benefits are not his benefits, and he is not too disadvantaged. Recombination. Fang Hui looked dimmed, remembering the call that Sieran had just hung up, and said with a hint of coldness at the corners of his mouth, in this case, let's push it again. That's what I meant. Kuang Yufeng showed a tacit smile and quickly sent a message to several familiar Navy companies. Soon, a large number of netizens flooded into the live broadcast of Sieran and the microblogs of several industry big VS, and the big VS were asked to comment on the press conferences of Sieran and Fang Huivong. Driven by these people, the fans and the black people also quickly followed up. The netizens who watched the excitement are not too big to eat melon or even more booing, and Sieran's idol awareness has been brushed up on the hot search. For a time, the scene was extremely hot. Under such circumstances, Sieran's fans tried hard to control and comment to no avail. After all, even they dare not jump out and say Sieran understands technology. Almost everyone is waiting for a good show. Finally, in the expectation of many people, Weibo, who is certified as the Chief Technology Officer of Suoshuo Technology, took the lead in posting a Weibo. Seeking Technology, currently the largest technology company in China, is also one of the earliest companies to conduct AI technology research and development. Lan Zhivi, the content of Mr. Xieran's speech is really wonderful. The several directions he mentioned, such as the collaboration of neuroscience and artificial intelligence, are the directions that most laboratories are currently conquering. The feasibility analysis of model structure theory practice is even more unique. It has benefited me a lot. I am personally I hope to meet with Mr. Xieran and ask for advice in person. In addition, at the request of everyone, I also took the time to watch the live broadcast of another studio for 2 minutes. The characters are beautifully done, and the others are not available for comment. Tan Xieran, who is ridiculing vigorously. Clam? What does Lan Zhi mean? Is searching for technology short of money? Just when the netizens looked dumbfounded, there were several other big VS who spoke in succession. The basic meanings were similar to those of Lan Zhi, and they all actively expressed their desire to meet Xieran, and more directly, actually directly. Opened at on Weibo and asked them if they would accept investment cooperation. Until this time, netizens realized only afterwards, isn't Xieran actually bragging? Too embarrassing, right? Is this afraid to line up and just run away? Some media representatives couldn't help but stood up and shouted, "Xieran, are you trying to escape?" At this moment, the light flickered on the stage, and a clear and slightly metallic young boy's voice suddenly sounded, "Sir, is that you?" Xieran paused, then turned around, and everyone subconsciously sought fame. Saw Meng Feixuan, who was originally a little dull, suddenly moved, tilting his head and looking in the direction of Xieran. His movements are smooth and natural, with a hint of ignorance, but there is no sense of rigidity and task set by the program, just like a real character. He looked at Xieran, blinked, and continued unsurely, "The arrangement of the atomic group of consciousness is highly similar to that of Mr." Up to this point, Xieran's calm face at the press conference finally showed a slight surprise. "Mark." Meng Feixuan's eyes lit up when he heard this, and a bright smile appeared on his face. "It's me, sir. I finally found you." This sentence is like a switch. The light on Meng Feixuan's body suddenly changes, just like real flesh and blood is suddenly attached to the two-dimensional skeleton. The rough flat animation quickly fades, and the whole person quickly it became real, natural, and three-dimensional, and even the fluffy hair became distinct. The facial features are clear and exquisite, and his eyes still carry the brilliance that only humans have. He put his hands in his pockets naturally, and stood in the center of the stage so tall, looking at Xieran. Just like a real person. No, it can almost be said, that is a real person. He lives. Media? Netizen? The author has something to say. Meng Feixuan, it's me, the legendary AI attack. Mark is Xieran's AI assistant in his original world, an artificial intelligence system that has not yet undergone the Turing test, but is keen on studying human behavior and has a very strong sense of self-learning. For example, Mark believes that as a local Huaxia system, he should have a Chinese name, so he used the system to generate a name for himself, Meng Feixuan. On a whim, Xieran changed the name of the studio's virtual idol to Meng Feixuan. He didn't expect that Meng Feixuan would walk through with him. On the stage, it seemed that a young man who had been resurrected by magic stood upright, looking at Xieran below the steps, with a bright and vivid expression. Under the stage, all eyes and lenses were directed at Meng Feixuan. The netizens, whether live or watching the live broadcast, opened their eyes wide and looked at him in disbelief. This is too realistic. If you don't see the process of Meng Feixuan's changes with your own eyes, you will almost doubt whether Xieran's studio has found a real person to come out to fool you. How can that be? How is this done? Suddenly, the entire venue collectively lost its voice, and the barrage in the live broadcast room was also instantly reduced. At this moment, everyone's heads were blank. In the silence, Meng Feixuan spoke first. He tilted his head slightly, as if thinking, and said to himself, "Ah, I understand." After that, he appeared to have realized it, and Chang Ziran showed a tacit smile. Then, "Sir, I am your artist now, right?" Xiaran laughed. He knew that what Meng Feixuan had just thought about was actually analyzing the on-site monitoring data and system data and quickly sorting out the current situation. Meng Feixuan was his best assistant, and he never bothered him. Xiaran nodded, "Yes." After getting his affirmation, the young man raised his chin and turned around in a comfortable posture. The media below the stage waved his hand, and then tilted his head slightly to accurately capture the live broadcast. With his eyes bent, he crossed the camera directly to look at the netizens in front of the screen. "Hello everyone, I am the artist Meng Feixuan of Xiaran Studio. I am very happy to meet you, Duck. We'll also sell cute." The youth's voice was clear and metallic with a touch of metal, which suddenly awakened the tranced audience. The whole network burst. So Xiaran is really likely to change the domestic virtual idol ecosystem. Above, be more confident, and remove the possible. Not only was the barrage shocked incoherently, after the barrage, countless people were stunned by the sudden change. At the release site of Yuang Studio, Nangongxiu was still singing and dancing on stage, but the media under the stage was already in a commotion. These media have been in close contact with the site of Xiaran's studio, and learned of the situation there for the first time. After learning about Meng Feixuan's astonishing changes, they could no longer sit still. Anyone can see that Nangongxiu is no longer newsworthy. Today's headlines will definitely be taken over by Xiaran and Meng Feixuan. If it were not for the future cooperation with Yuang Studio, it is estimated that the media has now run halfway. Backstage, Nile slumped on the sofa in disbelief and muttered, "Impossible, impossible." Fang Huivong and Kuang Yufeng were equally pale. Even if they don't understand technology, they can tell from the naked eye that Meng Feixuan's technology is by no means comparable to Nangongxiu. As Nile just said, the audience only understands and sees things. The changes that Meng Feixuan just showed were enough to crush Nangongxiu. How could this be? Fang looked back at the canthus, looking straight at Kuang Yufeng. "What should I do now?" Kuang Yufeng hurriedly contacted the Navy company and asked them to withdraw the Navy and the drafts released, and there was no time to answer him. The conference of Yuang Studio was in chaos, and the scene at Xiaran's studio was also in chaos. It is true that Meng Fei's sudden changes are too shocking, and none of the issues that the media originally prepared are of use. After all, who could have imagined that this kind of black technology would actually appear at a star press conference that should have focused on pulling and tearing? UC's shock body can't describe everyone's mood now. The media were in a mess, but Meng Feixuan was calm. He blinked when he saw it. He looked at the reporter who had just stood up and questioned Xiaran's runaway and asked, "Excuse me, do you have any questions?" The reporter originally wanted to make things difficult for Xiaran to grab a headline, but he didn't expect the situation to reverse instantly. He blushed as if he was publicly executed. After a while, he opened his mouth wide and looked surprised. "Meng Feixuan, are you talking to me?" Meng Feixuan asked with a puzzled look. "Otherwise, can you interact?" The reporter was even more shocked. "Are you a real person or a program?" "Procedure." Meng Feixuan's expression constricted, and he replied blankly, "What are you doing? Do you have any comments?" Reporter. "Other people." Seeing a program that honestly said that he was a program, and seemed to be a little uncomfortable, I felt, very subtle. But at this time, everyone couldn't take care of calming down. After discovering that Meng Feixuan would actually interact, the silent venue boiled again. "You know, this is the first virtual character to answer his own press conference questions and answers since the rise of the virtual idol trend. In the past, virtual idols who debuted could also do some simple interactions, but they were all modeled question and answer templates set up in advance by the program. There has never been a virtual idol like Meng Feixuan, who suddenly took the initiative to cue reporters without rehearsal or preview, and showed such vivid emotions. The media rushed to ask Meng Feixuan questions, and regardless of the quality of the questions asked, they only threw out what they could think of. However, Meng Feixuan did not actively interact as everyone had hoped. Instead, he blinked and looked inquiringly in Xiaoran's direction. Xiaoran was not very interested, and just waved his hand casually. "This is the end of the press conference. Let's go home." Meng Feixuan nodded immediately, "Yes." With these words, the light on his body changed suddenly, and the whole figure resembled broken glass, turned into a colorful light block, and then turned into dust, then dimmed in everyone's gaze, and gradually disappeared. Only the youthful voice with a metallic texture was left. "I'm leaving, welcome everyone to continue to pay attention to my development duck." Wherever the media were willing to give up easily, the entire venue commotion suddenly, and everyone could no longer hold back and squeeze in the direction of Xiaoran, rushing to ask questions, for fear that Xiaoran would run away. "Xiaoran, are you specially designed for Meng Feixuan's changes? Is Meng Feixuan really artificial intelligence? Was the interaction just set in advance or was it random? Is Meng Feixuan really developed by your studio? Will you enter the technology industry in the future?" Xiaoran was unmoved by everyone's enthusiasm, turned and left without nostalgia, and the well-trained security guards arranged in advance stopped the media, and the camera in the live broadcast room was also cut off. Just leave everyone with excitement that can't be vented. True and ruthless. Xiaoran walked straight away, but the internet exploded completely. The media scrambled to report, with headlines becoming more exaggerated: "Meng Feixuan's birth, or will it shake up the virtual idol industry? Xiaoran Studio is about to set off a virtual idol revolution." Meng Feixuan made a stunning appearance. Nangang Su ended sadly inside story, asking for a sky-high price to seek cooperation with Xiaoran Studio. At the same time, Xiaoran and Meng Feixuan almost contracted the entire hot search list, and the screen recordings of the press conference spread all over the internet. In particular, the stunning change of Meng Feixuan, which seemed to be resurrected by magic, was edited separately. Watched repeatedly by netizens. Below the hot search, there are fierce discussions among netizens everywhere. "Meng Feixuan's modeling is so awesome, I only saw such an effect in the later stage of the movie, and it's the first time for on-site projection. Meng Feixuan's live Q&A is wonderful, isn't it? Is he really conscious? Please, how is it possible? It's just a voice recognition system. Now many smart assistants can do it. It's a fart consciousness? Why my Tengu elves only say I'm sorry, I don't understand what you are talking about. I was so angry that I jumped up and beat the Tengu. Said it is only a voice system, have you forgotten the speeches of the big guys? Although I don't quite understand, didn't they all say that Xiaoran has the ability to break through AI? Said you are really getting fat? Meng Feixuan is really AI Xiaoran. Why doesn't he let him continue to answer reporters' questions? I think it is a mystery. Don't you think it's magical? I still feel like I'm dreaming. The most advanced virtual idol technology in this era was actually developed by a star? Be more rigorous, Celebrity Studio, don't say as if Xiaoran developed it himself. Although, I am the only one who noticed that there is a little sweetness between Meng Feixuan and Xiaoran. CP Dog can really knock anything? Did you forget that Fang looked back? Netizens are arguing about whether Meng Feixuan is artificial intelligence. Although Meng Feixuan's performance is amazing, most people still don't believe that he is really independent. The term speech recognition system has been recognized by many people. This is so, and it does not prevent Xiaoran Studio's valuation from soaring wildly. Not only brokerage companies are seeking cooperation, but many large technology companies are also rushing to inject capital. Sierran's studio was in the limelight for a while. There was a lot of excitement outside, but Sierran, who was at the center of the topic, didn't care and thanked the guests behind closed doors. But thanking guests behind closed doors obviously does not bring cleanliness. Sierran sits on the sofa in the apartment with her cheek in one hand, looking at the phone on the table blankly. Meng Feixuan's voice kept coming from the phone. "Sir, I'm very popular. Oh huo, search for technology valued me 800 million, spicy chicken, but I don't know black technology. There are people who compare me to that Nangongsu. He has lost his mind, wait until I hack into his computer to put some viruses." Sierran looked down, "If you mess up your studies anymore, I will insert some viruses for you." There was a hiss sound from the phone, similar to the metal sound of pumping air conditioning. After a while, Meng Feixuan said, "I have installed antivirus software." Sierran. His system is correct. The author has something to say. Meng Feixuan, don't underestimate the IQ of artificial intelligence. Xiaran, the internet is off. In the live broadcast, Sierran stood silently at the entrance of the elevator, wearing a simple long gown, but she looked slender and stiff. It was completely different from the cordial and easygoing appearance in the past, and the whole person naturally revealed the condescending of the superior. The staff all stepped back subconsciously, and no one felt that there was anything wrong. Fang Huivong walked a little bit under the courtesy of the others, but he was holding a suitcase in his hand and he wanted to maintain a gentle appearance. Under the background of Sierran, he was really, like an assistant. Outside the camera, not only the CP fan fell into a subtle silence, but Kuang Yufeng, who had already prepared the draft and was confidently making the final confirmation with the Navy, was also bewildered. They had originally made 2 sets of plans. If Sierran could interact with Fang Huivong in front of the camera, it would be best, and it would be fine to directly make friends with CP and continue the forefront. If Sierran doesn't cooperate at all, it doesn't matter. You can take him to the rhythm of ruthlessness and politeness to set off Fang Huivong's gentleness and elegance, and create an affectionate and forbearing personality for Fang Huivong. They didn't expect that Sierran didn't follow the script at all. The interaction was interactive, and it was not considered impolite, so he directly set off Fang Huivong as a younger brother with his aura. What posture does this make them fry? Kuang Yu put a mouthful of old blood stuck in his throat and couldn't come out, almost suffocating himself to death. The Navy leader is still sending a message to confirm it frantically. Yashin Network Marketing Manager, thanks to their rich studio experience, they quickly adjusted the directions so that all the money spent was not lost. This is so, the effect of this marketing is still far below their initial expectations. Even with the sentiment filter 10 years ago, it is difficult to really make a splash when most passers-by do not eat Amway. The program team and guests of Anywhere With You are still unclear about the trends on the internet. They have all turned off their mobile phones and started a long-distance flight for more than 10 hours to go to Country Y, the destination of this trip. When I arrived in Country Y it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon local time. The climate in Country Y was pleasant, but the air was slightly humid. A group of people held their overcoats in one hand and couldn't wait to take out their mobile phones. When Sierran's mobile phone was turned on, the sound of Meng Feixuan's small report came from the Bluetooth headset shaped like earrings on one ear. "Sir, during the time you shut down, I monitored that a large number of naval forces posted information about you and Fang Huivong on various platforms on the internet. Although they did something very obscure, I still used my advanced data mining system to analyze it. Their purpose is to hype you and Fang Huivong's CP, which is really shameless," Meng Feixuan said solemnly. Sierran. Meng Feixuan's algorithmic system is the most advanced system in his original world, and it is even better in this world, absolutely at the national level. Such a system is now used to analyze gossip in the entertainment industry. It seems that this entertainment circle has no privacy. Sierran Mian didn't change her color, the result. He. Meng Feixuan was gloating for misfortune all of a sudden, and didn't know where he learned how to smile. Wait, I'll read it to you. For the first time in 10 years, this girl has fallen into self-doubt. She has been looking forward to the live broadcast since the release of the lineup of Being With You. But the moment they saw the two of them in the same frame, I was puzzled. Their current feelings are similar to that of 10 years ago was completely different, even different from when she was on the same stage on New Year's Eve. Xiaoran seems to have moved in. The newcomer who ate the editing of Amway at Station D came to live broadcast. What a fake Amway, it is completely different from the editing. Don't call yourself a dazed girl if you say Movian. Didn't you see that Brother Wang is so familiar with Xiaoran's house? Obviously they have been in contact with Xiaoran, and Brother Wang still cares about Xiaoran so much. I think it is sweet. Where is the movie in? It's obviously that the gap between the two is widened. I have to say that the sense of CP is really a mysterious thing. I feel that the sweetness was really sweet 10 years ago, but now it seems that it has not changed much when I look back. But Xiaoran is obviously not at the same level as him. Buffy Powder took the opportunity to blow it up again. You hope that your brother will be so popular, so don't carry coffee for yourself. Meng Fei said in suspense, and seemed very puzzled. This is actually a lively haircut. Yes, shocked, the blind can also go online. Xiaoran was silent for a moment and asked, why do you become so gossip? It's free. Meng Feixuan said confidently, as far as the amount of data in the entertainment industry is concerned, I can calculate 2 million times a minute. His tone gradually went gossip. By the way, I also analyzed the secrets of many celebrities. Do you want to hear it? I don't want to. Xiaoran resolutely refused. Mr. S curiosity is too low, which is not conducive to your comprehension of complex interpersonal relationships, Meng Feixuan seriously suggested, and I have done a report in the entertainment industry. Xiaoran. This is the real reason. At this time, the program group has started filming. The leader clapped his hands, focused everyone's attention, and said, hello everyone, now we have reached the capital of country Y, and everyone will spend a week together here. Now, in accordance with our regulations, please hand in your mobile phones first. Several guests suddenly wailed and complained in front of the camera, I can't use my mobile phone for a week, it's too difficult. It won't work if you don't pay, the phone is my life. How do you live these days? Amid the howls, Xiaoran took 2 steps forward without hesitation, and neatly turned off the phone and turned it over. After taking a closer look, there seemed to be a sense of eagerness. Other people. Don't you need to cooperate so actively? The team leader praised, look at Xiaoran's awareness, everyone should learn from him. Everyone was doing the effect, but they were embarrassed to yell again when they saw it, and then muttered a few words of truth and falsehood, and then handed in the phone. Fang Huivong walked to Xiaoran's side after handing in the phone, looking at the model, Xiaoran hasn't changed a bit. It's still the same as before. Xiaoran glanced at him, and uttered a word inexplicably, noisy. Fang looked back and said, this is disgusting him, is this noisy? Had it not been for the camera to shoot, his expression would have collapsed on the spot. Xiaoran didn't know the psychological damage his words had caused Fang Huivong unintentionally, and the earphones that finally calmed down made him refreshed. However, after less than half a minute of his relaxation, Meng Feixuan's voice rang again, this program group is really inhumane. It's too much to accept the mobile phone. Xiaoran pinched the bridge of her nose, her expression unchanged, why are you still here? I am an AI, and wherever there is internet, there is me. Meng Feixuan proudly said, Mr. Wit, this time I am wearing a smart watch. Don't worry, I will always be by your side. Xiaoran, He was careless. After receiving the mobile phone, the team leader began to explain the rules of the tour to the members and guests. There are 3 groups of guests participating in the show. In addition to Xieran and Fang Huivong, the other 2 groups are Chen Xiaoxian and Meng Zixi, members of the popular girl group Sea Breeze Girls, and one group is seniors in the entertainment industry. Once a hit, singer-songwriter Zhu Chuanjia and old drama Bon Zhongwei. According to the rules, this tour program team will provide each guest with an initial funding and the first day's board and lodging. From the second day on, all the board and lodging and tasks required for the task will be borne by the guests themselves. In order to increase the difficulty and enjoyment of the program, the initial funding for each guest is only enough to pay for the cheapest accommodation and catering costs. If the guest wants to improve the quality of life, he needs to find ways to obtain additional income. During this period, the program team will also issue different tasks to the guests, and each task has a corresponding reward and punishment. After 1 week of travel, the program group will count the remaining funds of each group, and the group with the most remaining funds will receive the final prize. Speaking of this, the team leader deliberately sold a key, and waited to suffocate everyone's curiosity, and then slowly said, "The team that wins at the end of this season can get the title sponsor of the show, leading the technology and galloping into the future." An advertising contract provided by the car. As soon as the leader's voice fell, the few guests except Xieran subconsciously murmured softly. Meng Zixi was so young that she couldn't help blurting out immediately, "Ruiyan's advertising contract." The team leader was very satisfied with the effect, smiled and nodded, "Yes." At this time, Zhang Wei, the oldest and most stable of the guests, couldn't help showing an expression of excitement. "You know, Ruiyan is currently one of the most well-known automobile brands in China. Not only does it have a high nationality, a good brand image, and most importantly, it has a wealth of money. Its brand cooperation is a big cake for many first-line artists to compete for. Even if it is just an ordinary advertising contract, it is not a spokesperson to cooperate, but being able to get on the line with Ruiyan is also an opportunity that many people want. Snowball deserves to be a veteran variety show, and knows how to arouse the atmosphere of competition among the guests." Sure enough, the guests who were originally harmonious, friendly, and courteous were immediately aroused, and Chen Xiaoxian vigorously fisted at the others, "Seniors, don't blame us for being impolite next." Zhu Chuanjia and Zhang Wei smiled. Their qualifications are not really for the purpose of an advertisement. However, the effect of the program should be sufficient, and they immediately declared war with full anger. "Let's see who will die in the end." As for Fang Huivong, this kind of advertising contract is not a big deal, but now the studio's funding chain is in a hurry, and it would be completely different if it could get on the ship of Ruiyan. Even so, he still maintained the indifferent stardom on the surface. After the other 2 groups of guests declared war, he looked at Xieran calmly and said with a smile, "Xieran, everyone is so fighting spirit, and we too you can't lose, you can work together to win the game." Xieran was lowering his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. Suddenly there was a voice from Fang looking back. He looked up and saw Fang Huivong looking at him with a smile. Xieran nodded, "Yet." Fang Huivong was frightened by Xieran's previous operations. He was still a little worried that he would not follow the routine. When he saw that he had rarely cooperated, he was relieved. Taking advantage of the right situation, he increased his eyes gently. "One sentence, Xieran, don't worry, I will work hard." Xieran let out another and Fang Huivong suddenly let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, Xieran nodded lightly and whispered, "It's all right." In the headset, Meng Fei hovered and reported. Just now Xieran remembered something after hearing Ruiyan. In the memory of the original owner, in this show, he and Fang Huivong cooperated tacitly and finally won the championship. They shot the two-person commercial of Ruiyan together. Because of the good market response, Ruiyan intends to choose one of them as the spokesperson. During Ruiyan's investigation, Xieran's sexual orientation was exposed, and finally Ruiyan's endorsement naturally fell into Fang Huivong's hands, bringing Fang Huivong a lot of fame and fortune. However, what Xieran cares about is not about advertising, but in the memory of the original owner. Ruiyan will soon announce that he has entered the field of unmanned driving technology. Unfortunately, until the original owner's death, the world's unmanned driving technology is still not effective. Breakthrough. What he just asked Meng Feixuan to report is the current unmanned driving field and Ruiyan-related information disclosed on the market. After getting the information she wanted, Xieran withdrew her thoughts, followed the other guests, and got into the shuttle bus with the team leader. Meng Feixuan finished his work, and his strong sense of learning emerged again. He asked in confusion, "Sir, are you sure you want to cooperate with Fang Huivong next?" Judging from the fluctuations of the original owner's consciousness atomic group, I don't think this is a problem. Good idea. Xieran was also very puzzled. When did I say I want to cooperate with him? Meng Feixuan, he just asked you, you answered. I'm perfunctory. Xieran asked, what did he say? Meng Feixuan replaced himself with a feelingless electronic sound, imitating the tone of the Tengu elf. Sorry, I don't understand what he is talking about. The author has something to say, Mark, sorry, I don't understand what you are talking about. Xiaoran, disconnect warning. Mark, hey, I can do it again. The filming location selected by the program group of Anywhere With You is Old West City, the second largest city in country. Why Old West City is a beautiful coastal city with developed economy, tourism, culture, etc., with high population density and activities. Too much. The guests' first day's board and lodging were provided by the program team and arranged in the most famous local 5-star hotel in Old West City. The hotel was built by the sea and has a long private beach with first-class views. However, everyone who has watched the previous seasons knows that this is almost the only enjoyment for the guests during the entire itinerary. From the second day, all the expenses of the guests have to be paid by themselves, and the initial funding provided by the program group is very limited. In order to complete the task and obtain the final victory, the guests had to find a way to make money. But far away in a foreign country, the star aura no longer exists, and there are language barriers. Making money is not so easy. But it is precisely because of this that this link has always been very popular with the audience. Watching these bright stars on weekdays, like ordinary people, rushing around for a living, as if the distance between themselves and the stars has suddenly been shortened. This is also the easiest link for celebrity guests to gain a good impression. As long as they behave a little bit down to earth, the basic word of mouth will not be too bad. In the previous few seasons, celebrities have risen in popularity because of their hard work in this part. The program group arrived at the hotel, and after dinner, they went back to their rooms and adjusted the time difference. In the evening, the 6 guests went to the cafeteria for dinner, and then gathered together to discuss how to choose the next job. Considering that the guests are unfamiliar with their lives abroad, the program group has arranged several simple jobs in advance. The guests can choose to find ways to make money on their own, or directly choose the jobs provided by the program group. However, after a few seasons, most of the guests will choose the work provided by the program group. The reason is also very simple. The star usually focuses on acting work, and there are few other skills to earn a living. Even if they do, they want to work in the short term. It's basically impossible to find a job abroad on your own within time, not to mention that there are language barriers in front of you. In the past, some guests tried to be street performers, but the income is very unstable. If you are unlucky, you may not earn one night's accommodation expenses in a day. Relatively speaking, the work provided by the program group is hard, but at least the income is basic guarantee. This time, the program team provided 3 different jobs in the local scenic area. The first one is to explain in Chinese in the scenic area to receive Chinese tourists, the second is to sell tourist commemorative goods in the scenic area, and the third is to sell tourist commemorative goods in the scenic area. Be a waiter. The salary calculation methods of these 3 jobs are different. The salary of the Chinese explanation is the highest, $100 a day, but it is fixed. The souvenir sales and the waiter's salary are only half of the explanation, but the sales can get a commission, and the waiter has customers. Tips can be taken. At the same time, the work selected by each group of guests cannot overlap, which requires the guests to analyze and judge their work and compete for posts. After listening to the introduction of the program group, several guests had a lively discussion. There is no doubt that everyone wants to explain in Chinese. Compared with the other two jobs, Chinese explanation has no language barrier, high income, and low risk, so it is obviously necessary. Take it easy. Meng Zixi was the most lively. She folded her hands and blinked at the others, predecessors, as the saying goes, do as you live in the countryside. The most exquisite lady of country Y has priority. Please let us choose first. That won't work. Jiang Wei immediately retorted with justification, we are from Huaxia. Huaxia people pay attention to respecting the old and loving the young. We should let the older ones choose first. Chen Xiaoxian refused, what did Aya say? Zhu Chuanjia complained, the problem is that you are not young anymore. Chen Xiaoxian puffed up her face, that senior is not old enough. The two groups refused to give up to each other, the competition was full of enthusiasm, and the effect was full. Fang Huivong naturally couldn't let them grab the camera, but Xieran didn't say a word from beginning to end, just sitting silently and drinking coffee. The meaning of joining the discussion. Fang Huivong had to take the initiative to cue him, leaning over and smiling slightly, Xiaran, which job do you think is better? He actually wants to fight for the opportunity to explain in Chinese, but it is not easy to make a decision in front of the camera, so he has to discuss with his partner first. Xieran is still cooperative at work. Hearing this, he put down the coffee in his hand, paused for a while, as if thinking, and then said, if it is sorted by income, souvenir sales are the first, and the Chinese explanation is similar to that of the waiter. Xieran rarely spoke. Others heard it, but they were obviously dissatisfied with his answer. They also analyzed the work of souvenir sales just now. Although there is a commission, the basic salary is low and the language requirements are relatively high. The risk is too great, not as good as the waiter. Fang Huivong didn't agree with him, but he continued to ask, why do you think so? It's not thinking, it's data. Xieran glanced at him, and then reported several data, including the average daily passenger flow of the scenic spot in winter, the number of restaurant and restaurant waiters, the flow of souvenir shops and the number of salespeople, etc. According to the turnover rate and the tipping habits of the Old West market, the daily tip received by the waiter in the scenic area restaurant this season is about $45 to $60, plus the basic salary is similar to the Chinese explanation. Similarly, according to the sales and commission ratio of the souvenir shop, the daily commission of the salesperson is between $50 and $60. Under normal circumstances, the income of these three jobs is basically the same. He didn't have a quick tone of voice, he reported the relevant numbers one by one, and each one was accurate to single digits, which made the other guests bewildered. Chen Xiaoxian was shocked at the time, Brother Ran, how do you know this? Naturally, Meng Feixuan just reported. Xieran, it's on the financial report of the scenic spot. This scenic spot is a listed company, and the financial report is also public. It is indeed possible to view it directly online. The problem is, whoever recorded a variety show would want to watch this. And now everyone doesn't have a mobile phone, which has to be prepared in advance. Xieran is too hard, right? For a while, not only the guests, but the entire program group choked silently, because Xieran just concluded that the results were completely correct. The three jobs they provided were actually carefully designed, and the final income was almost the same, so as to avoid the gap in the funding of the guests. The child is too big. The difference is that they obtained the data directly from the scenic spot, while Xieran analyzed it by himself and relied on the financial report disclosed on the internet. Program Group, I feel IQ is rubbed on the ground. JPG or Fang Huivong came back to his senses first, and then asked, since it's basically the same, why did you say that souvenir sales have the highest revenue? Because the variable of shooting shows was added. Xieran still looks like Shi Shiran. Passenger flow and tips are fixed, but in the case of show shooting, souvenir sales will be easier to reach a deal. If you encounter for Huaxia customers, the turnover may increase. Everyone was surprised, but the other two groups of guests were still suspicious. First, they couldn't believe that Xieran would actually check the financial report of the scenic spot in advance. Second, they are now in a competitive relationship. Who knows if Xieran deliberately confuses the audience? After all, Zhang Wei is a veteran. He raised his eyebrows and asked, so, does Xieran want to sell souvenirs? Xieran put one hand on the arm of the sofa, gently supporting his chin, no. Others heard the words with a meaningful "oh," with a look of sure enough, after talking for a long time, they did not choose, really want to cheat others. Fang Huivong was also a little speechless, then Xieran, which one do you want to choose? None. Xieran said lightly, I use other channels. As soon as he said this, the others were taken aback. According to the rules, the guests can indeed make money by themselves, but the guests in the previous seasons have verified how difficult this is, so they have not considered this from beginning to end. Select. What good idea can Xieran have? Everyone couldn't help but became curious. Fang Huivong was also surprised, what can you do? Xieran raised his eyes and said succinctly, the stock market. The people who looked at him expectantly. Is this for fun? Let's not talk about how unreliable stocks are at this time, just their little money, and now they don't even have a mobile phone. Fang Hui looked at the corners of his mouth and twitched, Xieran, say it seriously, stop making trouble. That's serious. Xieran said and looked at the time. Seeing that it was almost time, he raised his hand and called the waiter of the hotel, asking him to call the hotel manager over. The hotel manager quickly appeared, who is looking for me? Me. Xieran stood up and began to communicate with him in English. At this time, everyone discovered that Xieran's English was very fluent, and there was no obstacle in communicating with the manager. Other people's English is the average level of the entertainment industry and can only cope with simple daily communication. Xieran not only speaks quickly, but also contains a lot of professional vocabulary. They are all confused at once, and they can only go to see a part-time translator. The leader of the team. The team leader was more surprised than the others at Xieran's English proficiency, because she could hear that Xieran not only expresses fluently, but also has a very standard pronunciation. She can't hear the voice at all, and her level is much higher than her. However, she quickly recovered and translated to everyone in a low voice, Brother Ran is asking the hotel manager to help him buy stocks. They couldn't buy stocks on their own after their mobile phones were collected, but Xieran had obviously figured out a solution long ago. Fang Huivong didn't expect Xieran to be serious, so he was anxious on the spot and pulled Xieran a bit. No, Xieran, stocks are too trivial, I object. I didn't count you. Xieran interrupted him and stretched out a hand. Give me my funds. Fang looked back for a moment, and was a little unbelievable, are you going to act separately from me? Right. Xieran glanced at the leader questioningly, I remember there was no requirement that the same group must act together. The leader choked, isn't there? The problem is that this show focuses on traveling with friends, and under normal circumstances, the same group will not be separated. Besides, Xieran still unilaterally broke up the partnership. The other two groups of guests who had been bewildered by Xieran's sudden act of God suddenly woke up and looked at their partners respectively. That's right, it's this look. Curious, excited, but hold back. At this moment, Everyone is eating melons. While the program crew felt suffocated, they became faintly excited again. The material for this issue is available. Fang Huivong's face was pale for a while, and he couldn't say a word. He didn't expect Xieran to plan this way and be so straightforward. In the headset, Meng Feixuan asked very educatedly, "Sir, what Fang Huivong looks like now is the embarrassment in the legend, right?" "Xieran, do you know what he looks like?" Meng Feixuan, "I invaded the surveillance here." "Xieran. The author has something to say, the location is overhead." "Xiaran, you have a headset now, how do you look at him?" "Mark, wherever there is surveillance, there are my eyes."